And just to say from people that they will be also able to continue the work that was done in the past. So, I mean, this, but if I understood well the statement, yes, I mean, today we spoke about investments because the topic of this workshop is about investments because it's a key challenge for research infrastructures. But on the other side, indeed, we have to be able to keep the expertise and the capacity so that the technical capacity in the research infrastructure is not to ensure that first of all, they will operate, and secondly, they will attract, as you said, new researchers, new talents, and in the context of the research infrastructure. So my reply is in the context of research in general, and this is beyond research infrastructures, we have to see how it's possible to train, skilling and upskilling our researchers, whether they are working in universities or whether they are working in the research infrastructures, in order to be able first to adapt to the new challenges and to ensure continuity of the operation of the infrastructures. That was my quick reaction, but Carlo, you know research infrastructures, not from theory as me, but from practice.
Well, I agree with the fact that technical personnel can be very, very critical. And on top of it, if somebody goes away, brings away a lot of knowledge. The point is that with the increase of technology or the complexity of technology in a number of infrastructures, much more direct exchange with industry. Most of the technicians who work in research infrastructures are normally of interest for industries. Now we have to try to have the flow both ways. And this is not yet the case, because this is also a problem of salary scales in state-owned institutions as compared to salary scales in industry. And then we have to, on one side, try to train more people, but also try to get back people, so to equalize. And this is a big problem in Europe. I mean, with ELI, there was the problem, if you are in Szeged, you don't find the technicians because everybody goes away and the salaries are completely low in relation to the rest of Europe. And the same is in most state institutions, even in good parts of Europe. So we have really to look much better at career development on European scale, which is comparable to the career development, at least for the technical part of the industries. Otherwise, we will keep on losing people.
If I may add, I visited CERN last week. And actually, I understood also, but maybe that they don't need just people that they are just technicians on the research or on the machine, or people that they are used to work in the industry. So they need also a mix of skills and capacities, like this multi-sectorial understanding between what is expected from the industry, the research knowledge, how to operate the machine. So they need people with different skills. And this, it's something that has to be developed first and has to be paid in the second. So maybe also a short-term solution, because I don't think that maybe we have a talent approach at European level. Not sure whether we can have a salary approach at European level, to be honest. This is something that is very difficult to regulate, but maybe a short-term solution could be also this collaboration between industry and research infrastructure for mutual benefits will enable in the same country at least not to have volatile salaries between what is paid in the industry and what it would pay for the same person in the research infrastructure.
Well, let me say, for example, there is an opportunity for the less research-intensive countries in the East, because the use of structural funds could be for the training of people. So there is no operation support, but there is a lot of possibility in training people on research infrastructures. So here there is a real opportunity in the Eastern countries.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more? Yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me? So my name is Rafał Danin-Bokowski. I'm from the Jülich Research Center in Germany, but I'm here representing the analytical research infrastructures in Europe. And this is a network of networks. This links together synchrotrons, neutrons, electron beams, ion beams, lasers, proton beams. And the issue here is one of sustainability, and in particular changes from Horizon 2020 to Horizon Europe. There are specific challenges which are different for synchrotrons and neutrons compared to the other networks. And my specific question is about the smaller networks. And I can give an example with electron microscopy, which is a highly distributed infrastructure, but just like the other 5 smaller analytical characterization techniques, it's been funded through integrated infrastructure projects up until now. And there is typically no national support for providing access. And so the question is how to proceed now with networks which are not already on the S3 landscape, where there is no national funding in most countries, but we want to avoid these networks being fragmented in the short term, even if in the longer term we want to get on the S3 landscape or establish an ERIC. In the short term, we need to continue to provide access as a priority. We need to establish to maintain a cooperation between the individual laboratories in different countries. In the case of electron microscopy, these are mostly university laboratories and often and occasionally research laboratories, where the only access route has been through these integrated infrastructure projects in the past. So the question is about short to medium term sustainability with a priority for access, but also for linking together joint research and networking activities.
Yes, well, I am a bit biased because I have invented the roundtables and the networks in Framework Program 2, when there were 30 million ECUs for research infrastructures, and it's difficult now to hear that the support is not there anymore, because after all, it's a very small amount that is needed compared to the operation costs of what is already paid by the countries. So is a very small amount that can be gathered probably by showing to the countries how good it is to have external users. Universities that are paying for most of these infrastructures do not know the concept of the exchange of values that happen when outside researchers are bringing new ideas. Normally, there is no accounting for that. While this is very important for the university and for the students in the university. I would say that probably we have to find a way in which some, let's say, trigger or catalytic money can be used also to keep the networks going in this context.
Okay, thank you very much. I propose that we stop here. We are a little bit behind that schedule. We will now break in 3 groups, and I hand over to Karina, who will organize you.
Okay, I'll be very quick. We have 4 group sessions now online on Zoom. I call non-online participants to follow the instructions of their moderators, but I think we all know the Zoom etiquette. Please be proactive but punctual and very concrete. Indeed, today we are concentrating on a very clear topic, financial sustainability. What are the gaps and what could be the recommendations, and to different policymakers or other vehicles that we have. Please remember the introduction from this morning, and also the inspirational speech from Carlo and Anna. In the room, physically, we have 3 group sessions. So now please follow your moderators, Karina, Ornella, and Alec. If you don't remember your groups, you can check there on the table. To the online moderators and also to my colleagues here in the room, we gather again at 25 at the latest past 11, because then we have to sum up and to listen to the reports from the 7 groups already. So let's split in the room. Who wants to use in the room the chat bot, the flip chart, can also take. Enjoy your work.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the Zoom participants should be splitting into 4 rooms.
Yeah, but usually it shows like a sign. You go to room this
Yeah.
and this, and
I don't see it.
I don't see anything.
No.
Hi, Nadia.
No,
Hi,
me neither.
hi, Eddie, guys.
Yes, we
Yeah, they're
are
not
still
showing up.
35 participants here, and I guess that this is not what it should be.
No, it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I think Robert, myself, and Lars should moderate the group, and no, 35, yeah. So we are waiting. We have no instructions. Let's see.
Shall we moderate, Peter?
Yeah. I am moderating group 2, as far as I understand.
Yeah, all the moderators
Okay.
are online.
Okay.
So we are to be splitted, otherwise we cannot moderate
exactly.
groups.
So I guess
I entered this room using the Zoom connection for group 1. So we are basically all in the same room. I don't know if the links were all the same.
Yeah, but that could be okay. It's only that somebody who owns the Zoom room should split us in breakout rooms.
Exactly.
And that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
I don't think it will happen, but okay.
I didn't see any more than 1 Zoom link for the session.
No, indeed.
I think that we are forgotten, be honest. Yeah, probably they have some difficulties. They could not share also the slides. Probably they have some local difficulties there.
Yeah.
Who is hosting?
I had a group with just kind of 20 people.
Yeah.
And I saw the other groups, which were more or less, all of them were about 20 people. So there were 4 groups.
It's not a person who's hosting. It's a new era to 2021 name. So
Someone behind that should make someone else a co-host and a host so that we could start.
It should be Alexander and Jana who are the workshop moderators of this part, who would manage.
And now I see a co-host entered the room. There's another two new era 2021. Maybe we are going there to be sent to the breakout rooms. So Lydia, if I get it well, you are going to moderate one discussion through Zoom about which particular topic again?
Well, what I was told is that we are going to be split it into 4 sessions, but the questions are the same. The questions are the 2 questions provided in the paper.
Okay.
About the synergies between funding instruments and the funding sources and the challenges. That was my briefing.
Yeah.
But what I see is that the time is really running up and there is no time for discussion.
4 breakout
groups
rooms.
are now open. How do we
rooms are
go?
now open.
How do we go to the groups then?
The moderator must do it.
Yeah.
Okay. They say that rooms are open.
Yes. And how we go there?
I just
Because there was only one link for this breakout.
I think the moderator puts us in automatically into 4 rooms, and it should automatically come up on your screen. So it's the
or the Zoom. Yeah, the Zoom should have a button in which you pick up.
Yes.
If it's not automatic.
Which I don't see.
No.
Otherwise, we just go and discuss in this group.
Exactly. Just improvise.
And I cannot put up my well, I have to wear the mask because I'm in a hospital.
Oh.
Not for me.
That's good.
So nothing to be seen so far, except that the rooms are open.
It says all the breakout rooms are now open. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where? How?
How exactly?
Maybe we give them 2 more minutes and then we just have one room discussion.
Yes, let's do that. Yes, no problem.
Let's give them 2 minutes. Then we will have only half an hour for the whole discussion.
Yeah.
Well, we have only 2 questions. We need to be sharp.
Yes, collection of bullet points then.
Right.
So, because the moderators are Robert McGreevy, then Francisco.
That's me.
Francisco Colomer, Peter Wenzel-Constabel, and me. These were supposed to be the 4 moderators.
Okay, I suggest we simply start and start with a question: who would take notes? I could do that, or is it somebody else who take the notes?
I'd at least ask for my session Miriam Forster to take notes. Miriam's there somewhere. So if Miriam could do it, that would be good.
Yeah, I'm here. I could do it, but I think the chairs would then be missing for the groups in the real room, right? Because they're all in the Zoom.
We're
all here. Yes,
we are all here together. It's a perfect communication. You see, there is
exactly
no risk of losing.
But
any
if you want
message.
to start the discussion, I can share the screen or just take the notes.
It's probably easy just to take the notes because it's easier if we can see people. I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait a second. We are being put in the rooms now.
Okay. Good. So we'll see you back at 11:25.
We have half an hour.
Yeah.
-1 very long second.
This time is relative. Eh? When you're
You're
waiting,
right.
what you're waiting is an eternity.
Okay.
Still nothing.
Yeah.
So I think this demonstrates we better travel to Slovenia next time.
Yes.
Maybe they do that on purpose to show that we should have been there.
Yeah.
That would be a wonderful networking occasion because I don't think many people will be there.
Did somebody disappear voluntarily, or were they taken away from us?
They're losing patience.
I think, yeah, wouldn't be surprised if people are getting desperate and then they just give up. It's not good.
Oh, I think we are being sent to the break rooms. That's why we disappear. It's disappearing very fast.
Very fast.
Very fast. We were 35, we are now
Velocity
37.
is relative. Speed is relative.
We are getting philosophical here. Yes.
Careful, if you say the wrong thing, you'll be sent to a room all by yourself.
Indeed.
We can't.
Look at all the answers.
Maybe the Rapporteur should be preparing the output already, just in case.
Preempt the output.
They should already be preparing the bullet points. Well, we
actually
have
of
some
mine.
with James. We have some ideas already. So.
Of course, that's the point. No, this is not progressing really.
No, this is not progressing. We have not received any updates to these from these ERA guys.
I even forgot in what breakout room I was going to be. So it will be a surprise for me anyway.
But for me to have no idea.
I have now the invitation to go to breakout room 1. So I can now choose to go there, and I will do so and try. I hope you will also receive it.
Right.
Maybe I'm alone there, then I come back.
Yeah, then you go back. We don't have any invitations. If you can choose rooms, please join, but we can't choose anything.
People are slowly disappearing into rooms.
But actually, some of the Rapporteurs are still here.
Yes.
So if we are not sent to the breakout rooms, it's not going to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, by the time we get there, they'll have done the job. So
Yeah. Okay, now yes, I got to join breakout room 2. So see you.
Right.
So good luck.
There. Bye.
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 So maybe some of us will just stay here.
Maybe.
Could be. Is there any other rapporteur than me in this group?
No, I think this is the plenary. I don't think you'd stay here. I would imagine they'll put you into a breakout room, but let's see. Oh, here we are. Bye, number 4.
Okay, good luck.
Bye.
You don't tell me if somewhere lost in cyberspace. I don't see anything.
I'm going to.
I'm
Bye.
in room 3 now. Okay.
It's nice to see that Eric is also here. I'm going here to breakout room 4. So
Good.
maybe something.
I'm still here.
Me too, but we have more people now, you see, because we were 9. So
okay.
Another room
I,
with
I
us.
guess we might be too early to return to the
maybe
main.
we might be too early.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But we can continue discussion.
We can continue here, exactly.
The rest
At this
is going
point,
on.
I would like to ask perhaps James. James, can you perhaps share the screen and of the notes that you're taking, so that we could review them together, taking advantage that we are waiting for the others, and that way we can get the messages collectively agreed.
I don't have access to share my screen.
Oh my God. Okay.
Sorry.
That's not good then. Okay, can you then read maybe?
Sure. So I have.
You see, now is another group joining. There's another group joining. Yeah. We are all of a sudden 18.
Right.
Okay, so
that was fun.
Yeah, let's wait then, and then James, you can still report the outcomes, and then we can complain if there is anything that good complaining, if there is anything that needs to be adjusted.
So I think the principle now is that we have to present some of the outcomes of our discussions.
Yes.
Very briefly.
Yes.
And then we send them into somebody centrally who will then put them through the sausage machine and come out with something at the end for the later session.
Yes, Robert, I think that in fact Karina Angelieva should join us here, as far as I understand it, because she is the main rapporteur to the plenary session.
Yeah, but I think we do our one separately first. I think I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what we had to come back a little bit earlier than. Hi, Paco.
Hello,
welcome. Hello.
We were not sure whether we could continue in our discussions for longer, so we just decided to come back.
Yeah, same for us.
Okay.
Same for us.
Okay. So I will take a couple of minutes just to write up the
yes, that's what we are doing, James and I as well, regarding our session. I think we are still missing one session, no? There were 23 participants and we were like 35 or so. So there must be one group missing. The group from Peter is missing, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're still busy standing around talking in the live session. They're still busy standing around talking in the live session.
Nothing happens there.
Okay.
The video was lagging.
Yeah.
I think Karina is still preparing the conclusions, right? I see something on the video on YouTube.
Still busy standing around talking.
Okay, from our side, the group 2, we have already collated the comments and we've put them on a slide. It's too bad that we cannot share the slide because,
No.
oh, wait a minute. Maybe I can share the slide.
No.
No?
No.
No, we are all disabled. Yeah.
But Lydia, probably you can send it to Karina.
Sure, of course, I can send it to
Okay.
Karina, clearly, yeah.
We were set
Yeah,
to
no,
send it to Omela.
Yeah,
Omela.
I've sent ours already.
Oh, you send it out? Okay, I will do that
Yeah,
now.
I
You
sent
sent
them
it
already.
to Karina and who else?
Omela,
Omela.
de Giacomo, who is from Zurich, Eric.
And also maybe Jana, no?
People are joining now. Do you have the email of Omela?
No, I don't.
I can put it in the chat for you.
Please, thank you.
She
That's the
emailed
other
us last
side.
night.
Because she asked us to send her the.
Ah, great. So yeah, please put it on the chat.
There it is.
Great, thank you. Okay, that's great.
Do you have the email of Omela? It's
Yes,
interesting.
please.
I'm listening to myself.
Dear colleagues, I really hope that our online participants can hear me. I can't understand, but I really do hope. We check in the break that everything should be okay. Now, please note that there was a break in the Zoom. So anyhow, our online colleagues, the 4 breaking sessions start later. First we'll present our first output of these sessions in the room, so that to give a little bit more time to our colleagues, the moderators that were moderating the Zoom sessions. And then the idea is the following. Oh, finally, we see you. Nice to see you, colleagues there. I hope you had also fruitful discussion as us. Of course, the time was not enough, but the idea is the following. Till 1st of November, let's say till the end of Monday, we would be happy to receive your short reports a little bit more elaborated, so you can have time. And if you receive a lot of proposals in your sessions, you can combine and send till 1st of November. Of course, after lunch, we'll discuss what now we hear from all of us. So I will start now. I'll be brief because, as I said, during lunchtime, we elaborate a little bit more what came out as main challenges, but also as recommendation. We start, of course, with the big picture, the long-term funding need, be it short-term, the project-based funding. So this is very, very well already underlined from Professor Carlo Rizzuto this morning, that we have to find a solution. But currently, this is a really a kind of instability in the system. It's very important. We really find it as a challenge, the funding of access to research infrastructures, especially for smaller countries, but basically also for different research infrastructures, including those that are distributed nodes. The operational cost coverage, we discussed this a lot, especially for research infrastructures funded with EU funds. Basically, in 2 sentences, means that different research infrastructures have been funded in the years, have been created already. Some of them start to operate, but then concerning their operational costs, even sometimes upgrade, not only linked to human resources, but to upgrade of equipment, basically they rely on national administrations, national funding organizations, and we discovered mismatch very often. National stakeholders, as the ministries or funding organizations, even didn't know about these commitments taken previously. So we believe that concerning this operational costs matter have to be addressed very severely in our recommendations. The maintenance of research infrastructures equipment very often is missed in the different funding instruments that we have, and sometimes it costs a lot. It's not about the maintenance of some small parts, but it's also about licensing, payment of different licensing regimes, and so on and so forth. A big difference between single-sided and distributed research infrastructures in the funding models too. So some of the recommendations, we really need that we have to address S3 to work on analysis of different funding mix existing in member states, what is their practices and solutions in funding, for example, big research infrastructures, vs, for example, some small research infrastructures or nodes, parts of ERIC's consortium, for example. Apart from this mapping and analysis, it would be nice to have and to address this need to S3 forum, that we need a kind of a toolbox with identified good practices, but very concrete. The cost estimations, what they were in the beginning, both for capital investments, operational costs, how this developed. Basically, we need an honest discussion that the running costs, operational costs are really increasing in the years. But how we have these honest discussions, we should start from analyze and to S3. But also to streamline to the national operators and member states, work on impact assessment, meaning the impact of research infrastructures, not that they be seen only as a cost of the funding authorities, but as a source to increase the impact, social economy impact. And for this, we need also a holistic approach, how to gather data, what should include this impact assessment. And last but not least, we envisage to give a recommendation to the European Commission, of course, to also umbrella organizations, to see research infrastructures integrated horizontally, largely different clusters, pillars of Horizon Europe, so that basically to utilize and to operationalize their potential, fighting different challenges. I think to stop here. There are much more, but I keep it for the sum of the lunch break. So now to Ornella, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Many of the findings overlap yours for challenges. Now we start with the challenge of inaugurable science against invisible science. So there is a challenge for research infrastructures to make aware, to raise awareness on the importance of maintaining them with the proper funding, so maintaining their operations. And these infrastructures become dependent on European funding for operating or for providing access. There is one. Then there is the challenge. Now all infrastructures are preparing for the OSC, to that, and there are many projects developing with connected with the OSC. However, how this will be maintained? So these operation costs that will be in the future, who will pay for that? There is a huge question mark for research infrastructure. That is a big challenge. There is also the need, we also found the need to interact more with the second pillar, with widening, so to be not only in the research infrastructure calls, but for research infrastructures to be present more widely. It is a challenge how to address that, but the need is raised. Yeah, there should be also an effort in covering standardization, and this is not about new funding and what infrastructures need for, but it is about a more efficient use of funding in the end. So there were also issues with companies that have proprietary software. For the Commission, it would be necessary to move outside from DG research and interact with other units. So also address this problem as a wider concern. So how to use funding more effectively if companies cannot impose, single companies can impose their models on research infrastructure. So being constrained to follow, to upgrade instruments when they are not still, when they are still functional, or to be dependent on one single software. And there should be probably a more active intervention in that area. The main funding sources keep on being national funding for operation. There is no single market for scientific instruments, and probably this is something that could be aware. Also, the need to interact more strongly with DG Regio for supporting investments, also upgrades of instrumentation, not only new instruments.
Thank you, Neva. I think we have a lot of in common. This will be clear in the end of the session, but this is good. Alan, now it's up to you.
Okay, I just make a few more comments to add to what Karina and Ornella have said, and maybe there'll be a little bit of overlap, but just from our group's perspective, I think it's clear that in all cases, really, there's a good understanding that there's a combination of national and European funding in most research today that typically tends to be member states covering what we call core funding, really operational, like paying the electricity, the basic salaries, with most of the research or a lot of the research funding for specific research coming from EU grants. And this is a pretty, I think, understood model in terms of synergies between funding sources. When it comes to the structural funds, it's acknowledged as a good source of investment, perhaps even these recovery funds as well. But we should, I think the point that the group wanted to make specifically in our case is that, you know, these go beyond research priorities. these are national priorities. And oftentimes research ministries are just one ministry at a table full of others. And so I think just saying to the member states, well, you should use these kind of funds, we have to understand that these are in a broader context. And I think, of course, most of the people who are working on that do kind of understand that. One specific, let's say, positive kind of aspect of funding sources for research infrastructures came around the evolution over the last 5 years, the success, particularly of distributed research infrastructures and ERICs. This is maybe something, Carlo, you could comment, how much was that really foreseen? I don't really recall so much about that 10, 15 years ago discussing about that, but it's been a huge success because it enables particularly smaller and medium-sized countries to kind of kill two birds with one stone. You finance a national node, and you also are contributing to a European research infrastructure. There are still some issues there that need to be worked out in terms of the balance between the center of the management of the ERIC and the nodes, but this is somehow considered to be a very successful model and possibly could be expanded into other areas, and we should think about how that could be possible. That's a nice way to use resources. In terms of challenges, again, this point came up that I just mentioned a second ago, that research ministries, in other words, the member states, because that's what we mean, they don't all act the same way. It's not a homogeneous approach among ministries. And oftentimes the research ministry is not sufficient as a national stakeholder to be able to make a kind of decision. Multiple ministries have to be involved, finance ministries, economy ministries. Now you even have separate innovation ministries. The national scientific community oftentimes may not know how to engage with a European RI. So then the question comes up, who should take the lead on that? Is it the national government? Is it the research infrastructure itself should come in and try to facilitate that engagement? And then this question of transnational access, particularly related to Horizon Europe, is a big question for smaller and medium-sized countries. It still is an issue because the European level research infrastructures have different policies about access and how it's funded in terms of travel and transport of equipment and things like this. So my final point, or from our group, the final point is that one opportunity could be from the European Commission and perhaps from ESFRI to facilitate harmonized or standardized approaches by the ministries, keeping in mind that different ministries have different approaches, facilitate common approaches that could help all the member states to engage in a similar way so that we're comparing apples and apples. And a good example of that, for example, has been roadmaps, where even though different countries have applied roadmaps in different ways, having a roadmap generally has been very helpful in terms of determining priorities for different countries. So these are just maybe kind of things driving the funding question rather than specifically concretely answering it. But I think we had a very good discussion and we just didn't have enough time to go any further. So thank you.
Perfect, Alan. I would wish to comment, but we don't have time. Now, if you allow me, ladies first, so I'll give first the floor to Lydia. Lydia, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. Yes. Well, can you hear me? Yes, okay, thank you. Well, we had also a very interesting discussion on the need to develop, just to not to repeat the points you made, because I think what the outcomes of our discussion were very much in line with what you said, but we had the reflection on the need to build business models, like for publicly funded organizations, build business models that include transnational agendas and include the combination of funds from different national levels to have a sustained long-term investment regarding hardware, software, and personnel. So to guarantee not only funding for building the hardware of the infrastructures, but also to ensure the long-term service provision with skilled people. Somebody made a comparison that normally skilled people are coming from the private sector. And there is a lack of professionals in the public sector in this respect. So that is something that should be looked at. That we also discussed that there should be incentives to develop these broader EU agendas beyond ESFRI. Of course, ESFRI have common agendas, but beyond ESFRI to have some incentives to develop common agendas for using at best the existing research infrastructures or plan new ones. And then a third point would be to improve on communication, to have a European platform on for better communication of the existing services and the services to come in a clear way, or at least more effective than what exists today, because we believe that outreach in this sense is very important. And last but not least, validation that the upgrade of the Charter for Access to Research Infrastructures is very much in order, so that this receives the support, the full support of the members in the working group, and to do it in collaboration with stakeholders.
Perfect, thank you so much. And keeping the time, but also super strong messages. Now we move to Robert. Robert.
Okay. Do you hear me?
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to add as an opportunity, because we do tend to forget this, is that in Europe we do have a world-class portfolio of research infrastructures and a world-class user base, and that at least is what we should build on. In terms of the opportunities, we had some discussion around the use of co-fund, and this, the exact meaning of that wasn't entirely clear, but it's a specific thing, but using that as a leverage for national funding. So not just, sometimes you think of the EU things being a substitute for national funding, but actually using it to leverage national funding. We've already mentioned the non-traditional funding sources. The mission-focused research, whether that is, it's important for research infrastructures to be involved in the missions, but that the funding that's provided does not cover the cost of providing services. Services are expensive to provide, right? Services are not cheap things. If you want services, it costs, and if you want to do that at scale, it costs a lot. And there's a bit of a mismatch at the moment between the expectations of missions. So research infrastructure should be involved in missions, but they can't be involved if essentially it costs them too much money and they can't afford to do it. And I think that's a bit of a problem at the moment. Industrial commercial research also, that is a potential, but it's a potential up to a certain scale, and we mustn't get that out of context. There was a lot of discussion about joining up different EU programs, that the research infrastructure programs used to have a lot of emphasis on mobility, which is partly human capital side. That's now moved into Marie Curie, and the two things are now separate. But a lot of the way you can exploit research infrastructures is through human capital and mobility, and whether that involves having part of Marie Curie, if you like, within the research infrastructure program, or vice versa, it doesn't really matter. But there does need to be the people aspect of the research infrastructure funding to get the most benefit out of it. In terms of the challenges, and we've certainly pointed out that no one size fits all. So although we come up with some general statements, actually it's different really across the distributed infrastructures, the national ones, the ERICs and so on. We already had the point that Rafael made earlier about the fact that some research infrastructures can't actually fund access outside of EU programs. They just simply don't have the funding to do that. And so if there aren't EU access programs, they will simply stop being research infrastructures, and that's a bit of a loss. And it's not obvious how they get national funding to do that. There was some discussion about specificities in some ERICs not being able to apply for national funding. I'm not sure that's true for all ERICs, but it's true for some ERICs, and it's to do with the structure of the way they're set up. And that certainly should be looked at, because that seems to be a bit of an anomaly that keeps them from actually looking for a particular funding source just through the way that some things are defined. So that whether that's a legal thing, I don't know, but that would have to be looked at. There does need, because a lot of the funding is coming through national funding sources for research infrastructures, and it was mentioned earlier about even the national funders not necessarily knowing all the things they're funding, but also the national funders don't know what the other national funders are funding. There's no overall map of how this funding works. And the funding from one country is actually dependent on the funding from other countries when they go into international research infrastructure. So we need a much more joined up view of what is the whole map of both national and transnational funding for research infrastructures if we're going to optimize that funding. At the moment, lots of these decisions are made on a individual
But
country
this is
basis.
very good. But really
Okay.
to cut you like this, but this is
Okay.
absolutely going with some of the other colleagues. But I was informed from the organizers that the Zoom was arranged till 12 o'clock. It's very possible any moment the participants will be cut off, and after 1 o'clock they'll be able to, of course, watch on YouTube. But in
Could I
order,
mention just
because
one
I'm a bit
very
now
important
afraid
point?
out of time and the Zoom will finish. The idea is let's quickly hear Francisco and then Peter, and then, as I said, please send till 1st of November really your report, your comments, ideas for the recommendations, so that to prepare the really good and strong messages. So, Francisco.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to talk. Even if I will have to go really fast. So I think we identified that for sustainability of the era and understanding that the research infrastructures have a specific role there, it is then the sustainability of research infrastructures linked to the membership. The member states are the ultimate responsible of both sustainability of their own national infrastructures, but also, of course, they're sharing the pan-European. Now, there was a bit of flavor of pan-European infrastructures in our session, also because I'm representing ERIC Forum, so of course I took my chance there. And I think the visibility of the infrastructures, it's crucial, it's been said many times. Also the fact that the services that are provided are open in principle to global users, and that has two directions. I mean, both the fact that the national funding bodies have to think that the users are not only national, the users are global, and of course the services are provided to these global users around the world. The issue of the language is important. It was raised that if you have a national infrastructure that is explaining the services in the national language, it may provide, well, let's say a barrier to the global users, and the other way around. If you have everything in English, maybe there is a lot of the information that is not sufficiently visualized to the national ones. Also, the added value that the pan-European infrastructures give to the smaller partners. The big partners maybe can do lots of things on their own, but for the smaller partners, the pan-European added value is enormous, and it has to be recognized. Now, the strategy that Europe wants to have with what refers in this global community to other areas of the world. There are already a number of initiatives to link Africa with Europe, Asia with Europe, Latin America with Europe. It's very important how the research infrastructures can be one of the tools to actually link the communities in those areas and efforts in those areas of the world to the know-how that exists in Europe. Now, scaling projects through the pan-European research infrastructures, again, very important for small countries. We can do much more together than the national parts going on their own, and this is recognized in particular in the ERIC landscape, how the ERICs can be the tool to scale up these projects. Now, what is one of the challenges? The eligibility of some of these funding sources. It's been actually mentioned how the national funding sources are not always open to the pan-European infrastructure. How it is important to have the ERICs and the other pan-European infrastructures linked to the national roadmaps. They need to be there. That is the best way for actually making this coherent. Sometimes there is a conflict of interest, and we have to be aware. Sometimes the national partner wants to do something, and then the pan-European infrastructure is not seen as an ally, it's seen as a competition. And that is a problem that we think shouldn't happen. Now, what about the tension with the new infrastructures versus the existing ones? It is essential to have a demonstrated continuous impact assessment and monitoring of the existing infrastructure so that the funders understand that they have to continue being there but also, well, if it doesn't work well, understanding that the infrastructures, well, maybe at some point need to move to other things. And there was very briefly some discussion about loans versus subsidies, because it is important to identify when they exist that there are developments in research infrastructures, technical developments that are of interest to industry, and then there is this other funding source. But then also to understand that when we talk of impact, it's not only economic impact, there is a lot of societal impact. And societal impact is sometimes not so easy to make, let's say, covered by loans. So I think this is one of the challenges that many of them actually recognized by the report that the expert group on ERICS have been just released a couple of days ago and led by Carlo Rizzuto. So we resonate a lot with what is written in that report. Thanks.
Thank you, Flint. We also discussed this for the impact. It's obviously going to be in the recommendations. And now, Peter.
Yes, thank you, Karina. Let me try to explain the word in 120 seconds. We had a very small group, and we identified more or less 3 areas of action, 3 areas of challenges. One was, and they were already discussed also by other groups, as I heard. One was the problem with the use of different funding sources with different procedures, different time frames, different eligibility conditions, and a lot of administrative burden, especially for smaller infrastructures. Especially since some funds are dedicated towards specific regions, nationally restricted, and there are problems for the cooperation across borders. So this is one point where we would strongly go for a more harmonization and opening of the different funding sources towards a European cooperation. Another thing that came up was the transnational access as an essential point that cannot simply be tackled or left to the member states alone. It was a very good program of the, or it is a very good program of the Commission. And there were already some ideas in this conference that the TNA, transnational access to infrastructures, should be put on new footing. Maybe we should explore things like common funding, joint funding between member states and Commission and whatever other sources are available. The last point was the question of the long-term perspective of infrastructures versus the short-term project funding. Project funding for 3, 4, 5 years is good for building up an infrastructure, but it's not a useful system for the operation of an infrastructure. So countries try to find different solutions, and actually we have no recommendation there, but maybe this should be a topic for a separate discussion somewhere else. So I think I stayed within 2 minutes, and that's it.
Thank you very much, Peter. With this, we exhausted our first outcomes for the sessions. I see that still Zoom is working and you're still here. Of course, the lunch break is advancing, and we are taking the time of the people also here. But maybe 2 minutes for the reflection. Someone of you, we forgot something and you want to be heard from the audience. As I said, now you elaborated report. Do you want to comment or to call someone from the audience here? We're fine. Okay, then I'm concluding this session. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy online as we hear good working and spirit, and I'm absolutely convinced that this was necessary, and this is again the beginning of the holistic approach to such infrastructure. So I wish you a very nice lunch, and at 1 o'clock we gather again. Okay, see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.